Tim.
Great to see you.
I want to zoom all the way out because obviously a lot of talk about AI in general.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just left wondering how Apple defines AI in general. Because I know if you ask a regular person, you might hear about generative AI, chatbots, things like that.
Yeah.
And these are relatively new additions to Apple's AI portfolio. How do you look at AI as Apple?
Well, we've been executing with AI for a long time.
Right.
It's at you're wearing a watch. It's at the root of the watch. I mean, you think about things like crash detection, fall detection, things like AFib, and all of this kind of stuff is machine learning at the end of the day. But what has captured people's imagination is generative AI. And we see it as the opportunity for a whole new curve of technology and providing and doing more things for people, providing an assistant for people, things that really improve people's lives. There's obviously, it's not without downside, and so we approach it very thoughtfully.
Sure.
And as you heard, we have always been focused on privacy. And so privacy is a very key tenet of our thrust into AI.
It's been interesting to watch Apple's arc with AI because I made a whole piece not more than about a year ago about how Apple seems to never say AI, even though they have all these neural engines, the machine learning and things like that.
Yeah.
We're actually branding it Apple Intelligence now. I'm curious why that change now.
Well, in the beginning and throughout almost everything that we always do, we always talk about the benefit to the user. Mm-hmm. And so the benefit to the user is crash detection and fall detection, not the technology behind the feature.
Sure.
But it became clear that people wanted to know our views on generative AI in particular.
Yeah.
And so we decided to embrace it and called it Apple Intelligence.
Okay. You had a quote that said about AI, if it can be used for nefarious things, we won't go down that road.
Yeah.
And at the time, I assumed that meant generative AI was off the table because of all the things that we'd seen about what it was potentially capable of or things that it might do. Has that changed?
Generative AI was never off the table.
Okay.
It was always about pursuing it in a thoughtful kind of way. And so that's what we've done, and we've implemented it in ways that are less likely to create issues.
I think smartphones are pretty great. But there was an interesting conversation around that about using your phone less. Maybe having AI help you out in ways that let you spend less time on the screen. Like if you're looking at your phone more than you're looking into someone else's eyes, something's off there. Do you think there's a potential future where we're using our phones less because of how well the intelligence works?
I think it's a possibility, and a significant possibility. Yeah. I mean, for us, we've never been motivated for people to spend their lives on their devices. We want to give you a tool so you can do incredible things that you couldn't do without the tool. And so we come out with things like screen time, etc. So it's a bit in your face as to how much you're using your device.
True.
We count your notifications and so forth so that you can go in and say, do I really want this many notifications? And we have focus kinds of states where you can silence the phone, etc. And so I do believe that as things get smarter and smarter with Apple Intelligence, that you can even take things that were taking more time will take less time now.
Right.
And
I feel like there was tons of chatter when you were first CEO of Apple about this new shift, obviously coming from Steve Jobs, and you've been CEO for what feels like a long time now, and we're entering this new age of AI, and I'm curious now there's new chatter about who the next CEO is going to be. What do you feel like your legacy as CEO at Apple should be? I want to end with a little game. I don't know if you've seen these where it's a blind ranking.
A blind ranking.
So we're going to do a top 5 Apple products of all time. But I'm going to give you them one at a time, and you don't know what the rest of them are. So you have to rank the first one without knowing what 2, 3, 4, and 5 are. Number 1, MacBook Air. It had that iconic moment of like taking it out the envelope on stage. It's the most popular laptop in the world.
And that moment of taking it out of the folder established a characteristic about that device that lives today. The first one, it wasn't about how many people would buy it.
Yeah.
But it was a huge moment.
Yeah.
A huge moment for the company.
The iPad?
You know, tablets had been in the market for a long time. Mm-hmm. Well, our objective is never to be first. Mm-hmm. Our objective is to be best. And yet, I couldn't live without my iPad today.
Yeah.
And so another huge moment for the company.
My number 3 is the Magic Mouse.
It was also an incredible moment. People don't think of that as much as they would the MacBook Air and the iPad and whatever else you're going to name, mm-hmm. probably. Mm-hmm.
The iPhone.
It changed the world.
It definitely changed the world.
And the simplicity of defining the 3 things that were on the phone was brilliant, to get people to think about it like that. Yeah. This isn't talked about as much, but initially you'll remember that there was not an app store.
Right.
The app store came a year later.
Last but not least, Vision Pro.
I was just using it last night to look at the screening.
What do you use Vision Pro for?
I use it for the entertainment mm-hmm. Value. I use it when I want to do multitasking, because I find the multiple windows really effective in doing this. And I'm seeing an extraordinary number and variety of things coming out of the enterprise area, far earlier than we would have predicted.
Interesting.
Because businesses generally move slow to adopt.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that half of the Fortune 100 is now buying Vision Pro for some project or the other, or exploring it.
Interesting.
And I find that it's still an emotional experience to look at your photos, and with Vision OS 2, being able to take your old photos and make them 3D, I think is a big, big thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I lost both of my parents and before Vision Pro came out, and being able to go back and look at those photos differently is something that, you know, it's an experience you can't replicate.